General Medicaid warning. The views expressed in 5-ish minute lore, the lore delivered in rants, are sanctioned by their scholar Progenium as excess rageous. Prolonged exposure can result in loss of IQ, high blood pressure, random outbursts, and blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in unconsciousness. Please consult your local physician for more information.
Hi, I'm Derek Bum. Say goodbye to
heretics and Xenos
with new kitchen gun. I love you, kitchen gun.
Alright, every single one of you knows what this weapon is, and if you claim otherwise, you're a liar. You've been here less than 5 minutes, so let's just get into it, okay? The bolter is so synonymous with 40k, you can't really have one without the other. When you look at a phaser from Star Trek, you might be confused as to what you're looking at. Is the thermometer you put in your ear? Rub across your forehead? Shove up your ass? Who knows? I don't. You're never gonna confuse a bolter for a blow dryer. It literally screams at you, I am gun! The bolter is a heavy, solid piece of construction, meant to last thousands of years and not given to people who would do something abnormally stupid with it. Space Marines, most of them anyway, have a relationship with their bolters like that of a person and their dog. Now granted, this is most Space Marines. Some chapters don't like dogs and they don't like bolters. From what we're told in the lore, the original Phobos pattern bolter used way back in the day was designed by the Emperor himself. Frankly, according to Marsden the Mechanicus' relationship with turning a screw 7 times instead of 8 times, that means every other design other than the Phobos is tech heresy. But apparently that's okay, and we're just gonna overlook that. What makes the bolter so awesome? It literally just dares you to call it anything other than a gun. It dares you to even contemplate that. Just look at this. Are you gonna take my temperature? Do my taxes? Speak to the undead? You gonna make me a cake or something? Now look at this! You're gonna fuck shit up! That's the difference! This is a gun! What does this gun do? Well, it works kinda like this. It fires a plasteel-cased, solid rocket-fueled bolt with a gravitic sensor fuse strapped to an explosive core with a fractional time delay, coupled with a gyro stabilizer and a dense metal core, most likely adamantium. This is called a bolt, and this is just its basic shell. How do I make this simpler, easier to understand? It's basically an automatic RPG that can fire 75 caliber rockets. It's also the closest thing to what's considered a good first contact diplomatic meeting with a Xenos, particularly Tau. Don't like that standard RPG round? Fine, we got you covered. How about blood shard shells, which are used by the Sanguinary Guard of the Blood Angels, filled with microscopic razors to make sure you paint the walls when you blow up. Black Templar fanboys will enjoy the Witch Seeker shell, and considering how they feel about Psykers, you can guess 9 out of 10 times who this is used on. Seeker bolts are essentially the Space Marine equivalent of an aimbot, and vengeance rounds are the Space Marine's way of telling a traitor Space Marine that they are an asshole. Of course, if you're in a really piss-poor mood and want to ensure who you fire at this weapon gets the point, you've got the Vortex shell. And by the God Emperor himself, if you get one of these fired at you, you have well and truly pissed off the entirety of a sector. Because not only do you blow up from the bolter, it tears the hole in reality and sucks you into the warp. Good luck, Timmy, you stupid bastard! This is just a sampling of the variety of things that can get shot at you, and I'm not even gonna talk about Hell Spears, Null Bolts, Anti-Phasics, or inertial fusion rounds that Space Marines with enough clout and rage can get their hands on to turn you into an afterthought. The main advantage of the bolter over pretty much any other handheld infantry weapon in the Imperium is absolute stopping power. The bolter will happily put down just about anything that moves, from orcs to Tyranids, Eldar to Hermann von Schraub. An orc with a car hood over his chest will happily charge into 20 guardsmen pumping shots into him, but will rapidly reconsider his life choices for the fraction of a second he's still alive once he gets hit by a bolt. It's designed for absolute maximum damage, nothing more, nothing less, and everything that goes into putting a bolter together emphasizes this. One of the oldest patterns of bolters that can still be found in service today is the Phobos. It was used in the first contact protocol between humanity and untold numbers of species. It was in service as far back as the Unification Wars. Some of these bolters was held as precious relative chapters, and other units that actually had them. Come here, kids! This gun was used to bust the camp of the first traitor! Behold its glory! The most common variant of bolter you're going to see is the Mark 5B Godwin pattern, and is used solely by Space Marines. It's made massive because the Space Marines themselves are massive. But hey, you can still use it, just so long as you've been lifting since you were a fetus to pick up something that weighs about as much as an engine block from a 57 Chevy, and you don't mind having your arm ripped out of the socket from the recoil. Space Marines carry this weapon in both hands. Don't just grab one and try to use it. This will have drastic and immediate consequences for your personal health and everyone else's mental health. Now I could sit here for 16 hours and talk to you guys about every single variant of this wonderful piece of hardware, but I'm just going to give you the most common types. Otherwise, by the time I'm done listing off every time a tech priest was almost thrown into a furnace for changing the way a stock was put on a weapon, I'd be older than Biggie himself. Some of these weapons are just flat out ridiculous, and frankly, some of them are only used by specific chapters. I figured I'd save a good amount of time just letting you know the types of bolters, so let's go. And I'm only covering Imperial bolters because other bolters suck and they don't exist. Don't like walking around with a car engine strapped to your chest? Well, we have the Blicky version of the bolter, and it's the bolt pistol, which when scaled down even further can be used by regular humans. Forget a concealed carry, this thing is as obvious as a neon sign above your head with fireworks going on in the background. Most commissars are going to carry around a version of this weapon for attitude adjustments on the front lines, and it's also carried by commanders and select officers of the Imperial Guard. Of course, the Imperium has to have a Blicky for the Space Marines, so they get the heavy bolt pistol, which is about the size and shape of your torso. If you're a pissed off woman who loves the Emperor, you're gonna love the Godwin Diaz pattern bolter, which is issued to every battle sister in the Adeptus Sororitas the moment she gets out of the Imperium Bible School and decides she's gonna go on a missionary mission dedicated to putting a cap in the ass of anyone who doesn't worship Big E. It's lighter, it doesn't fire as big of a shell, but a bolter shell is a bolter shell, and your innards getting turned into outwards is still the end result. It goes without saying, you can't get too much of a good thing, and the Imperium agrees with this. The Storm Bolter is a double-barreled bolter, which is absolutely damn silly when you think about it. When you see a Storm Bolter, it's a very clear indication that there is some serious shit going down somewhere, and due to this, they are bringing in 2 middle fingers instead of 1. Then you have the Heavy Bolter, which basically takes everything that you love about the bolter and makes it bigger and better. This mobile war crime generator is shockingly forgiving of blatant stupidity on behalf of its users. And aside from being carried by the Astartes, it's also mounted on tanks and comes with its own heads-up display for maximum Geneva Convention violations. Without a shred of a doubt, this baby unloads so much ordnance in such a short amount of time, if you see this pointed at you, rest assured, your guardian angel's gonna duck. Of course, there's nothing like a little tech heresy now and then, and that leads us right into the new weapon of the Primaris Marines, the Call pattern, which is basically just the Godwin pattern, but bigger and better because it relates to the Primaris, and of course it is. The Golden Boys of the Custodian get their own type of bolter too, which is the Guardian Bolter. Basically, the Custodians had a bolt gun mounted on a spear. I mean, it's not the first time we as humans have had blades and guns mixed. Some of the other patterns of bolt guns have literal chainsaw bayonets, but it's honestly the only time you're gonna see a bolt gun placed specifically on a weapon primarily used in melee, and they use it very effectively. Like I said, these are just the basic types of infantry bolters. I don't feel like dying of old age talking about literally all the different flavors because the most common type of bolter, the Godwin pattern, has at least 7 different active patterns, and God Emperor alone knows how many sub-patterns of different patterns. In fact, let's just list a few. We've got the Artifex Angelus, Oculus Bellicus, Fenris, Godwin, Ultima Hesh, Tigris, Sternguard, Ryza, Ultima Hellstorm, Bombron, Ultima Macrack, Nemesis, Lock, Enforcer, Penetress, Lastrum, Psych, and Psycanner. There you go. The Bolter, the Imperium's hello.